These superhero movies are so freaking intense. I'm always like, how did they make this? But with Shazam, I'm like, how did they ever get Zachary Levi to actually quit goofing around? The set seems like it was straight chaos in all the best ways. So, if you thought Zachary Levi would be the mature adult mentor to his kiddo co-stars like Jack Dylan Grazer, think again, because he was actually a bit of a bad influence on set.
Let's test it out.
Levi and Grazer would spend the whole time joking around and trying to trip each other up.
You were going to be nicking my art on that.
You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
If you watch through the bloopers, it's obvious Levi wasn't at all a man pretending to be a kid in a grown-up body. This is a kid in a grown-up body.
This summer only. Shazam.
I mean, the scene's over at this point. I don't know why.
And honestly, I like how crafty the director David F. Sandberg is, though. This crazy genius saw all this hysterical chaos as an opportunity. He took that food fight during lunch energy and turned it into film gold. He just let them pretty much improv as many lines as they wanted.
You ready to go round up your buddies? I feel like Jack Nicholson all of a sudden.
And Jared Leto might tell you that acting is serious work, but I think we all know that acting is at its best when the actors feel comfortable to play and make it their own. It's called the Deadpool effect.
Oh, hello.
Because I just coined that phrase right now. My favorite moment in the film has to be when Zachary Levi grabbed a giant Batman toy and threw it at Mark Strong, yelling, "Get him, Batman!" Well, that was all Levi's idea. There were actually a ton of takes of this too. He threw a bunch of different toys, including a Barbie doll. Well, obviously the Batman joke was the best one.
I'm Batman.
It's kind of impressive that they managed to keep the jokes flowing like this, considering how freaking cold it was. And honestly, from what I hear, there's only one real regret they had about shooting Shazam, and that's shooting in Toronto during winter. Have you ever been? It's seriously freaking freezing.
Hey, Rabos.
Let's go.
Usually when movies want to demonstrate that they are set in dangerously unlivable frigid conditions like Antarctica, Siberia, or Toronto after November, they just use a snow machine. Clearly, that's a smart call. David F. Sandberg was told that eventually everyone would get used to it, and he made sure to tell us that was some terrible advice. I mean, just look at how thin Levi's Shazam suit is. Do you see a parka? No, they had to cover him in a giant blanket between takes just to keep him warm. He said he had to take the entire suit off just to go to the bathroom, but managed to go the entire shoot without having to make the costumers go through that with him. Now that I know that they were filming throughout the winter, that makes a lot of sense. Zachary Levi evidently pitched that Shazam 2 needed to be set in the Bahamas, and I definitely wouldn't mind seeing Zachary Levi in a sunny, tropical setting. For Shazam 2, of course.
I love my life.
Now, don't get the wrong idea about the cold. Sandberg was dedicated to making sure that his actors were comfortable. The man was actually so dedicated that he tried out one of those rigs they use for green screens that make the actors like fly and spin around like proper superheroes, and evidently they call them tuning fork rigs. And these things basically look like the kind of thing you'd see on a playground, but do not try one if you ever get the chance. And according to Sandberg, it's a lot harder than it looks to pretend to fly. He said it really hurts to your core and requires a lot of strength in your chest. No wonder every dude that plays Superman has like 8-pack abs. And as tough as this is, evidently it was no challenge for returning to DC villain Mark Strong, who was no stranger to this kind of thing. He spent 2 weeks training for all his action sequences and jumped into it with a terrifying amount of intensity. Don't worry, we'll cover just how terrifying Mark Strong is. I just gotta tell you how silly Zachary Levi is first. And it's sillier than you think. Believe me. Remember how I said that Levi was basically a kid in an adult's body? Pretty much every time the camera wasn't running, he was making silly faces at the camera like I did in middle school algebra. He also spent the entire time joking with the crew members, constantly making them crack up when they were trying to work. Zachary Levi is basically like having a stand-up routine going 24/7 that's only paused when the camera starts rolling. Most of the time, it didn't cause too much of a problem, except Remember how much I love that Batman joke where he throws the toy at Mark Strong? Well, evidently the first time he did it, the man straight up took out a camera.
Batman, do something! Oh!
To be fair, if I was about to throw something at Mark Strong, I might miss too. But honestly, just out of self-preservation. Okay, so I'm being pretty harsh on Mark Strong, but he's actually a super sweet guy. Directors like Matthew Vaughn and Guy Ritchie love working with him, time and again for a reason. But there's also a reason that he gets cast as a supervillain time and again as well. That's because his face is terrifying. Seriously, you can tell that the silliness on set went down quite a bit anytime he was in a scene. Though he's not the scariest thing that was on set.
Is magic. Time to transfer your power to me.
It's all been fun and games so far, but it's time to get serious. There's an ugly side to making films like Shazam. A terrifying world where danger is lurking behind every single corner. That would be the Shazam Prank Wars. The true monster in the Prank Wars seems to be Jack Dylan Grazer. As someone who got his big break making the It films, he was no stranger to jump scares. And the most common thing they did behind the scenes was lurk in wait for a victim and then jump out and shock them. Of all the victims, Levy was the easiest to get. Grazer said that the man is just the most gullible person in the world, which makes sense. Now, all these pranks were just harmless fun, except one that went too far and actually held up the production for several hours. The baby powder attack. Yeah, for real. So, in an interview with co-star Asher Angel, Grazer admitted to screwing up his entire day of shooting. Angel said he saw Grazer standing next to him, holding a full handful of baby powder, right when he was about to be done shooting for the day. Grazer then doused him with it and was shocked to see that it got
all over his wardrobe.
Angel then had to go back to makeup and costuming to get himself and his costume cleaned up, and this delayed him like 2 hours from going home. Oops.
He just ran. And he stood there like, I did this? It was funny.
Everyone knows the most important part of playing a superhero in a film is a complete professional devotion to the craft and the source material through research of the comics and dedication to the character on the page. It's noble work. Of course, everyone also knows that the second most important part of playing a superhero is getting that superhero bod.
It's crazy, right?
And apparently nobody told my boy Zach that they have fake muscles in the suit because he went next level for his Shazam bod. He had a full body routine created for him to jack him up to superhero levels of swole. That, and he had to give up pretty much all his favorite snacks in exchange for bland chicken and broccoli like 5 times a day. That would be harder for me than the workout, to be honest. He told Michael Rosenbaum on his podcast that he went from around 200 pounds to over 220 in just a few months. Like, just gaze at his sensitive hot guy doctor look from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and then to his Shazam look. Those are the gains we're talking about here. I think we need to see his workout routine, like, one more time. It will never cease to amaze me that the execs at WB were like, yeah, we could put all these people in a room together again and get a sequel.